Hi everybody, today we're going to talk about the best mirrorless cameras for 2017. Hi everybody, I'm Curtis Eustace with CurtisEustacePhotography.com, where everyone can be the photographer they've always wanted to be. Today I'm going to talk to you something that's very subjective. So I'm going to talk to you about what I consider to be the top picks for mirrorless cameras for 2017. If you hang out towards the end of the video, I got two bonus that I really don't include in this list, but you may want to take a look at, and it looks like they're going to be pretty nice. So stick around to the end, and as always, I appreciate you to subscribe or like the video if you like it. So let's dig in to the top cameras, mirrorless cameras of 2017. So I've made this compiled list. Compiled a list of cameras that I thought could be probably some of the best mirrorless cameras that you can get in 2017. Now there are some cameras that are coming out that you may want to look at too. This is just a general guideline of some of the cameras that I think you should look at if you're thinking about getting into the mirrorless photography or mirrorless camera side of things. And this is coming from a photographer who shot Nikon, Canon, Sony. Those are the three primary. I've shot Sigma. Sigma still has cameras. Years ago they had the SD14 and SD15, and I wouldn't recommend the Sigma camera, but I've shot them. I've shot a lot of cameras, shot a lot of different camera lens combinations, etc. So anyway, this is for mirrorless cameras. And at the bottom of the list, and I'm not going to list these 1 through 10, but the two best cameras will be at the end of the show. So this is the least pick first, okay? So the first pick would be the Sony Alpha A5100. It comes with the 16 to 50 millimeter lens and is pricing right around $448. It has a 24.3 megapixel sensor, and some of the things I like about it, it's a small compact camera. It's inexpensive with the kit lens on it, and the kit lenses that Sony usually puts on their cameras really aren't that bad. They're actually pretty good, and it's just a nice little camera. It does a decent job. It does high definition video, but it won't do 4K video. So if you want 4K video, you're gonna have to go to a camera that's more expensive. But of the Sony cameras, it's probably the least expensive of the Sony cameras. Okay. So the first pick would be the Sony Alpha A5100. It comes with the 16 to 50 millimeter lens and is pricing right around $448. It has a 24.3 megapixel sensor, and some of the things I like about it, it's a small compact camera. It's inexpensive with the kit lens on it, and the kit lenses that Sony usually puts on their cameras really aren't that bad. They're actually pretty good, and it's just a nice little camera. It does a decent job. It does high definition video, but it won't do 4K video. So if you want 4K video, you're gonna have to go to a camera that's more expensive. But of the Sony cameras, it's probably the least expensive of the Sony. The next one will be the Panasonic Lumix G7 with the kit lens of 14 to 42 millimeters. It's priced right at $597.99. It's got 16 megapixels. It does shoot 4K video, and it's just a kind of a nice camera to shoot. It's under a pound weight-wise, so it's not that heavy. And that's kind of what's mirrorless cameras, the attraction towards mirrorless cameras to begin with is that they're not that heavy. They're compact, lightweight. So the only downside to the Lumix G7 would probably be that it's only 16 megapixels, which for me, I always prefer a little bit higher megapixel camera. The next one to look at would be the Fujifilm XDash T2. All right, so Fuji is known for making great cameras and great lenses that go on cameras. I've never personally owned a Fuji, but I actually have shot with a Fuji, and they're actually nice cameras. This particular one kind of has a retro look, or you can get one with a retro look to it. It's kind of half silver, half black. It's $10.99 with an 18 to 55 millimeter lens. It weighs less than a pound at 13.5 ounces. It's 16.3 megapixels. And the image quality is really very, very nice. Now, if you're wanting to shoot video, I would say that the video is not that great on this camera. It's subpar, and it's not going to have any weather sealing on it. So if you're going to be landscape photography in the midst of a waterfall, I probably wouldn't want to get this thing exposed to too much water. The next one would be the Olympus OMD M1 Mark II. A lot of letters. Okay, 16.1 megapixels. It's 14.4 ounces. And as far as Olympus is concerned, I own an Olympus pocket camera, so I'm not really big on. I just haven't owned any mirrorless cameras by Olympus. But of the Olympus cameras, this is probably the best Olympus camera for shooting video. Now, the original E-M5, there's really no difference in image quality over the first generation and this generation. But it does do a nice job on video. And that comes in at $999 for just the body. The next would be the Fujifilm XDash T2, and this lists at $1,699, $1,699. It's 24.3 megapixels. It uses a hybrid optical electronic viewfinder. So it's kind of a combination of the two. It can't compete with the X-T2 in terms of features, but it's actually a pretty decent little camera. Fuji, as I said, makes great glass. So if this is in your price range, you may want to check it out and take a look at it. The next camera would be the Olympus OMD Mark I or M1 Mark II. So this has a bunch of features and functionality. It's all packed into this thing. It's got a lot of features that you might like. It is a little bit expensive. It's really this particular camera, the OMD-2 E-M1 Mark II, is really designed for action photography. So if you don't shoot action, you may not really want this particular camera. You may want to look at something else. And that's kind of why it's priced at $1999, is because it's going for the action features to it. This next camera I actually own. It's the Sony Alpha A6000. So it's 24.3 megapixels. It has a weight of 12.2 ounces. And this is a really, really great camera. It's $548. It does not shoot 4K, but it shoots 1080p just fine. I use it for shooting 1080p all the time. It isn't weather resistant, so if I'm going to get out in a rainstorm, I probably won't want to take this camera. But you know, when they talk about weather resistance of a camera, I really have yet to meet a camera that is truly weather resistant, where you can just stand there in a downpour. Water usually gets into just about everything, given enough time. So just keep that in mind when they say weather resistant or weatherproof. Don't go swimming with it. And there's a lot of great lenses for the Sony E-mount system, which I might talk about in a future video. But this is actually a great value at $548. I think I paid $1,000 for it when it was new. But it has some big brothers and sisters you may want to look at too. The Fujifilm XDash T2 would be the next one at $1,599, 24.3 megapixels. It weighs just over a pound at 17.9 ounces. It's a major improvement over the XDash T1, which was a great mirrorless camera. This particular camera adds the addition of 4K video shooting, but it's still probably not good as the Sony 4K shooters or the Panasonic Lumix GH4 that's out right now. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you're shooting video, you may want to look at the Sony or the Panasonic Lumix first. But it takes stellar photographs, and it's got a good megapixel range. So, and it's priced right at $15.99. Now, like I said, that's just the body only, no lenses. The next camera would be the Sony Alpha A6500. The A6300 is just below this, and you can still get the A6300. The 6500, if I was going to choose between the 63 and the 65, I'd probably spend the extra $300 and go with the 65, and here's why. Both are going to shoot equally well 4K video, but the A6500 has a touchscreen on the back. So Sony was really resistant. They said they'd never put a touchscreen on a camera. They thought it was unprofessional, but here they've put a touchscreen on the very first camera, which is great. I mean, touchscreen, we live in a touchscreen world. Our phones are touchscreen, everything's touchscreen. People know how to handle a touchscreen. It's easier, quicker than trying to push buttons to go through a menu, etc. So the 6500 has a touchscreen, and if you have the extra $300 or $400, the A6300 is the model below it. Same camera, no touchscreen. I really don't think there's a difference in image quality or video quality. The Sony 6300 and A6500 are oversampling at 6K video and then going down to a 4K video. So that's internal. So your 4K video is going to look stupendous compared to some other 4K cameras, just because of this oversampling that they do. Again, E-mount lenses. You can put any lens you want on this camera with the right adapter. I can put Nikon, Canon, whatever I want on it. Some work better than others, but you know, your lens choices are basically unlimited with the Sony Alpha. So take a look at the Sony A6500. If you don't want to spend the extra $300 or $400, look at the A6300. The next one's going to be the Panasonic Lumix GH4. Now, this has really good 4K video, and it's got weather sealing. It's a 16.05 megapixel camera. So 16 megapixels. I wish I had a little more. But if you're shooting 4K video, don't worry about that part. It shoots great 4K video. The autofocus system on the GH4 isn't going to be as good as the Sony. It's going to hunt more for autofocus. So if you're shooting video, it's not going to be, the autofocus isn't going to be as fast or as accurate as a Sony camera. But this is a really great camera, and it comes in $1,197.99. It's not a full frame camera, but it's a micro thirds sensor. So, you know, they have making a lot of great micro four thirds sensors out there. Okay. So the top of the list, the camera that I like the most is the Sony Alpha A7 II. It's 42.4 megapixels. It comes in at 22.1 ounces, so it's not the lightest of the pics, but it's a really nice camera. It shoots great 4K video, probably not as good as maybe the A7 II. The A7 II will probably be a little bit sharper, but for all around photography and video, you really can't beat it. Now, I have never actually run into this problem, but the Sony A7 II, they say, will overheat when you're going about 30 minutes or so in 4K. So if you're shooting an interview or a documentary, you may want to check that out to see if that overheating problem still exists. The Panasonic Lumix GH4 might be a better option for something like that. And keep in mind, though, too, when I mentioned the GH4, the Panasonic Lumix GH5 is coming out this year. so we should be better than the GH4. Just something to keep in mind. So I'm sort of married to the Sony system right now. I was a Nikon shooter for years, but now I use Sony pretty much for everything. Even this little camera, I'm using the Sony RX100 Mark IV to shoot it. It's a great little camera. But anyway, that's the top of my list. Now, there's two other mirrorless cameras that you might want to look at if you got the dollars. And the first one would be the new Fuji GFX 50S, 51.4 megapixel medium format camera. Now the body only is $6,499, and then you'll probably spend another $1,500, depending on what lens you get, for a lens. So then we're going up to $8,000 for a camera and lens combination. This is a medium format camera. Now I shoot medium format, and I own a medium format. I own a Mamiya with a phase back. And one thing nice about the medium format is that the files I get out of it are 16-bit files, which is an incredible amount of color information. When I was reading the specs on the Fuji is showing that it's only going to be a 14-bit color file. So I don't know if this is a misprint or if this is accurate, but please check that out. One of the things, the reason why you go to medium format is to get that 16-bit color depth. Not so much the megapixels, but the color depth. Of course, megapixels are nice because we get the detail and fine objects. But if I'm spending the money on a medium format camera, I want the 16-bit color depth. Okay? So, and what that enables me to do is it has a tremendous amount more color information. My gradients between colors are between the shades of a particular color. Pardon me. What that enables me, a 16-bit file enables me to do is to have better gradients than a 14-bit file. It's smoother, it's creamier, it's delectable, the colors. I mean, it really is. If you look at zero down on a medium format file that's shot with 16-bit color depth, it's nice. The gradations are smooth. There's no banding. There's no any of that. Now, my Sony does a pretty damn good job. But is it worth the difference in cost between $6,000 and or $8,000 and $3,500 or $4,000 for a Sony and a lens? Depends if you're doing commercial product photography work or what the client needs, but if you're shooting professionally. But for the individual, it might be a stretch. This leads me to the granddaddy of all cameras for mirrorless, and that's the Hazell X1D. Now the Hazell X1D is a 50 megapixel camera as well, but the specs show that it's a true 16-bit file. Now, with a 45mm lens, which is like a wide angle lens for a medium format. A medium format, you typically like a 80 millimeter, typically an 80mm lens for a medium format would be like a normal lens, like a 50mm lens for a regular camera. But this is going to be a little bit wide angle, which is good. I'd rather have wide angle than normal probably. The price of the camera is $12,995 for a 50 megapixel medium format camera. Now, to give you the perspective, if I wanted to upgrade my medium format back on my Mamiya to 50 megapixels, I would spend $12,000 on the back alone without any cameras or lenses. Okay, so we have a mirrorless camera with a 50 megapixel back and a true 16-bit file for basically $13,000. Both the Fuji medium format and the Hazell are not out yet. They're on pre-order. Hazell was having some financial difficulties trying to get these to market, but they were bought out by DJI. So hopefully they got an influx of cash and were able to start production on these things. Is it worth the extra $9,000 for the Hazell for a 14-bit file versus a 16-bit file? Again, That's up to you. I don't know. To give you an idea, my medium format camera sits in its bag most of the time, and I am using my Sony 42, my Sony A7 II. The picture quality is stupendous. And if I really zeroed down on it, I'd probably see the difference between a medium format file and a DSLR file or a mirrorless file with a full frame file. But again, is it worth the extra cost? To me, it's not. And if I had a client that required a medium format camera, I'd probably just rent it. So it's up to you guys. These are just some things to look at. You know, if you got the money for the Hasselblad, go for the Gusto and make some comments and tell us what you think of it, or the Fuji. They're not out yet, but if you get one, let us know what you think. Anyway, listen, those are the top picks for 2017. As I said before, they're all kind of relative. It's just kind of what I'm looking at to give you an idea of what to look at. So you may like them, you may not. You may find something else that you like. Cool, you know? Anyway, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. And if you would, subscribe to my channel, and I'll come up with some other interesting stuff for maybe you guys to watch. So I appreciate your time, sticking with me. I want you guys to have a great rest of your week, and have a great day.